So you composed for Wayward Pines, right?
Yep.
Tell us how you got that gig. I love that show. I think the music is amazing.
Thank you.
So how did you hear about it and what made you want to do it?
You know, I heard about it, you know, like many gigs, it came not through somebody I went to college with or anything. It came strictly through channels, and you know, my style of music is a little creepy and kind of a little maybe off-center, not very orchestral, but the producers and the showrunners wanted to have something that kind of focused on the sort of head trauma of Matt Dillon's character, because in the beginning of the series he wakes up from a car crash, as do many of the characters in the series. They enter the world of Wayward Pines through being in a car crash and waking up with this traumatic head injury, and they figured, oh, traumatic head injury, we know just the guy. And that was, they had me do an audition cue where they had 3 scenes, and they said, why don't you take a stab at doing this? But I didn't know anything. When I did those audition pieces of music, I didn't know the bigger story of Wayward Pines. I just knew these little 3 scenes that I saw. But it was, Matt Dillon did a great job in just those initial 3 scenes of appearing unsteady on his feet, and he's a little woozy. And you're, as the audience, you're not sure if you're seeing, if he's dreaming all this, maybe he's still in a coma in the hospital bed. And so I tried to make the music on these audition cues have this kind of woozy, unsteady quality with sounds that are a little wobbly and kind of fractured. And that's what the showrunners and producers were like, they didn't really explain that, and maybe they didn't know that they wanted that until I half accidentally gave them that, and then of course I made it sound like it was a master plan that I had had all along. But that's what kind of locked it in for me, I think, was that I stumbled on that quality responding to Matt Dillon's performance as he's kind of staggering down the street like in that clip that we saw. So
now, when they brought you on board, when did they kind of clue you into what was really going on in this town?
Well, it's funny, they didn't. I mean, I could have gone and dug up the books and read the entire book series and understood what was going to happen, but I didn't. And they didn't explain to me. There's a big shift happens right about at the point we're at now in the series, like around the 5th episode of the first 10. And it starts off, you think it's just this creepy little mountain town and everybody's in on something and you're not quite sure what. At around the 5th episode, then, like, you know, the door opens and you get to see what's really going on. And they didn't explain that to me going in. And I kind of, once we got to that point working on the series, I kind of was giving the showrunner and the producers a hard time. I was like, man, why didn't you tell me? I might have been able to hint at some of this more epic scale and scope of this show in the earlier episodes, and they're like, that's why we didn't tell you. So they on purpose they liked the fact that the music in the first few episodes was kind of different from where we go from the middle of the series on, and that the first few episodes had music that was sort of claustrophobic and almost like it's happening inside Matt Dillon's head as he's kind of coming out of his fog. And so it was partly an accident, partly due to my laziness in not adequately researching and reading the whole way through the series. But as it turns out, that actually helped, because I might have accidentally hinted at some of this bigger scope if I had known. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because as I look at the music across all the 10 episodes of this series, the music in the first few is very different from where it winds up. And it turns into this big, epic, major situation. And in the first couple of episodes, it's just small sounds, and they're unsteady, and there's no drums, and that definitely changes as we move through the series, though.
Actually, I was going to ask you about kind of the evolution of the sound from the first episode to the last. Can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe kind of what inspired you to, like, make certain musical choices along the way?
Well, like I was saying, the first few episodes is really about Matt Dillon's character, Ethan, coming out of this brain injury from this car wreck, and even in the first episode, you're almost not sure, because they cut back and forth through time, you're not sure if maybe he's just in the hospital bed and he's dreaming all this, and this isn't really taking place. So I tried to make the first few episodes, there's kind of three things that work. One is the out of tune, kind of fractured and unsteady sound of Matt Dillon's character, like staggering down the street and sort of being unsteady on his feet, and trying to also marry that with, I kind of have this theory sometimes that certain musical sounds sound like they're indoors or they're outdoors or they're inside somebody's head. And so definitely in the first couple episodes, I'm concentrating much more on inside the head sounds or indoors sounds. And then as the series moves on and the scope of the story gets much bigger, then I started adding things like sort of epic outdoors sounding drums and bigger, more expansive epic sounds into the score, and kind of also reduced the amount of those inside the head type of sounds, but I kept a few of them that just to provide some kind of continuity through the whole series. Some of those sounds that I'd introduced in the first couple episodes are there the whole way through, but kind of the underpinnings get pulled away and replaced by this more epic and large-scale sound approach.
We've got one more minute and we haven't had a chance to talk to you. So just real quickly, as the mother of a son who's in a band who's looking to possibly transition into what you do, where was your transition point from band to...
Well, it's funny, the first job I ever had getting paid to make music was working in the 1980s, fresh out of college, where I lived in New York, working as an assistant to a composer who was doing TV music. And I was, he was writing the music, and I was kind of programming drum parts and making sounds for the synthesizers and stuff, but not really driving the thing. I was in the back seat of the car, basically. But that's the path that a lot of guys take, is working as an assistant or an intern to a composer. So they're able to see the mechanics of how it's done without necessarily, they're not tasked with, okay, we need you to write a theme. So they're able to work on the mechanics of the thing and understand the process without being under too much pressure. And that's what that was like the first thing I ever did in the music industry before taking 15 years to do records and be in bands and stuff. So then when I came back to the scoring side of things in around 2001, I was kind of I was going back to the starting point. But I think for, the transition from band work to scoring work is pretty natural, more natural these days because the tools have so much in common. When I was starting, there was kind of two different whole workflows, and you use different instruments and different tools, but now it's really like one continuous thing. Next. Good?
Very good. That's a great question.
Got some good meat in there? Okay, good.
Yeah, no,